Well, as promised, family, I am here with the man himself, Mr. Brian K. Hemphill, author of the soon-to-be-released book, The Element of Creative and Expressive Artistry. Brian K. Hemphill is an author, artist, blogger, and teacher. He has explored a number of artistic disciplines, including fiction and poetry writing, visual arts, drama, film and video production, dance, and music. He now offers one-on-one coaching sessions, workshop presentations, and book talks about factors that foster artistic creativity and expressiveness. Brian lives in the New York metropolitan area. Brian, good afternoon. How are you?
I'm doing well today, Delroy. I appreciate you inviting me, here to talk about the book.
Great. Well, I know that you've been working on this book for quite some time. Tell us how long you've been working on this book, and just tell us some stuff about how.
Well, look, it's been like more than 5 years. I think maybe I think I say 5 years, but it's been really closer to 6.
Yeah, that's a long time.
Right. By the time you do all the research aspects of it, and the reality is, after maybe about 2 years, I had a manuscript. It was about 20,000 words. The Science of Creative Artistry, and I thought I was done. But, I went to the editor. Editor said, well, why not do some research? And I'm like, I've said everything I've got to say on it, But lo and behold, 4 years later, right, the book has expanded from 20,000 words to 170,000 words.
That's a huge increase.
Yeah, oh yes.
Huge increase. Now, tell us, Brian, what is the book about, and when will it be officially available?
The premise of the book is that if you expose artists to the elements that make art expressive, that make art speak to people, then they can improve their artistry.
Okay.
All right? And part of the premise is that all artistic disciplines, it doesn't matter if you're talking about the performance arts, or if you're talking about literary arts, visual arts, that they share common elements that make them expressive. So I really wanted to find out what are those elements that are common to all arts.
I see.
And that way, if an artist learns those things, it doesn't matter what genre they're in. Mm-hmm. They'll know how to translate it. If they want to translate it from dance to writing, they'll already have a good basis for doing that.
Okay, great.
Officially, it'll be available. The book launch is September 21st, but it'll be available probably about a week prior to that.
Okay.
So people can, actually get it off directly through my site. Mm-hmm. Beyond the book launch, it'll also be available on Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, iUniverse, which is a publisher, iUniverse.com, and a few other places.
Okay, great. Now, tell us about some of the various chapters that's included in the book, and a little bit about. For example, I'm a singer. I'm a singer / broadcaster / whatever.
Right. No, I've heard some. Yeah, you're a very good singer. Yeah.
Thank you. Now, tell me a little bit about the various chapters in the book, and if there's anything also in the book that I can learn something from as a vocalist.
Okay. Well, let me start with the structure of the book. When I did this research, I was really looking for elements and. A lot of books on art, if you read a book, for example, on painting or singing, they'll give you a handful of elements. Even as a kid, I was never happy with that, satisfied with that. I always thought that there was more elements.
Okay.
That something was missing. In any case, what I discovered is artistry is much richer than we ever discuss in common terms. I discovered actually that there's 36 branch elements. So that means that there are 36 different elements that people are doing that people can possibly express in whatever artistry they're about.
Okay.
Now, that's a lot.
That's a lot.
36 is a lot to remember, but it's more than the 5 or 6 that people commonly talk about. But it all breaks down into 9 root elements. All right, so it's like a tree. So it's 9 root elements that branch off into 36.
I see.
So if you start with the 9, then you can expand into the 36.
Okay.
But that means that there's a lot of room for development and growth for any artist. So, for example, root elements might include all art has form. And as a singer, you're singing the gospel form. And within the gospel form, there's certain types of intonations that people expect you to put in. And if you don't, then you're really not a real gospel singer. So like the melisma.
I know.
Where you draw out, that
right.
just you take one note and you span it for like 3 minutes.
I know, like me, I tell people all the time, I even though I'm a gospel singer, I can't sing traditional gospel.
Right.
That's just not my style.
Exactly. But the innovators will actually break the form. So where there might be a traditional gospel form, somebody like you may come along and say, well, let me just kind of like add a little bit of nuance to it.
Okay.
Let me kind of make it a little different. That's how art forms kind of get modernized, because, once upon a time, you never had urban gospel.
I know, right?
You get what I'm saying? And some people in the beginning, traditionalists say, that's not real gospel.
I know.
But now it's an accepted and innovative form of it.
Even though you will not find the genre urban gospel listed in any one of those music sites what you call it, Live 365 or Pandora, and you will not find urban gospel.
Right. I think it's going to evolve. I think that's going to happen over time, as it gets... Rap at one point wasn't considered a form.
Right.
Now, it went on to become a dominant musical form. You get what I'm saying?
It's not one of the most dominant.
Exactly. So I think in time that will change.
Okay, great. Now, about some of the various chapters that the book consists of.
So and I'll just quickly go through like the 9 so that people get an idea. And this will make sense. Most people say, of course. It's like an of course. When you hear it, you go, okay. So we talked about form. All art has form. All art has composition. Right? You have to compose it. A writer composes a short story or a novel. A singer, even if you don't write your own music, while you're singing, you're really composing how you want each of the words to be expressed. Right? Where you want pauses to be and things like that. So that's really composing. Okay. So all art has composition. All artists have to express a technique for what they do. Right. They have to also express what's called, they have perception. What makes you a good artist is if you can perceive, right? What is good form and what is bad. Okay. Right? The only thing with the bad artist is the bad artist oftentimes can't perceive what is a good or bad form. It takes time. Right. And hopefully you're exposed to people that show you good form. You're a writer and you have parents that read you good short stories, then you're more likely to become a good short story writer. But if you get a lot of garbage stories, and when I say garbage, I shouldn't say it in that way, but stories that are not well written, then that's the types of story that you're going to write because you're exposed to that. Okay. All right? So pretty much you are what you're exposed to. That's exactly right. Like if you want to become a classical musician, for example, you know how many, you have to be exposed to it when you're like 4 or 5. Yeah. To get to the level where you're like, world-class competition at that competitive level, you really have to start when you're very young. Right. Other genres are not as as harsh, although the best artists in any genre were exposed early to good form. Sorry. Right. So after perception, artists also have to deal with emotionality. Okay. So that's what 2 so far. That's perception. We got form, we got composition, we got technique. We have perception, and the 5th one is emotionality. Okay. So now expressing your emotions. With perception. Okay. Right. So perception is seeing, being able to observe something and say, you know what, that's good and that's bad, and okay, that's how you do a pirouette. Okay. That's how you spin as a dancer. If you can't observe, if you don't have good observational skills, then it's going to be very difficult to learn. Okay. And that's why perception is so important. It's very foundational. People kind of leave out perception a lot. Okay. And that's why it was kind of important, to really talk about what are the elements that really exist. Because if you leave out perception and you never observe, like if you're an actor and you want to really do, let's say, a certain type of accent, the best way to get it is observe people who do that accent. If you want to walk a certain way, then you have to observe how do people really walk. Right. And then be able to mimic that. and then be able to beyond that, craft it to whatever role.
So is it, I'm just thinking now, is it safe to say that the inability to observe leads to mediocrity?
Exactly. Oh, yes. And it leads to mediocrity, and it leads to art that's just generic.
Okay.
When you see art and you go, okay, you see a painting, you go, okay, that's nice. And then you walk away 5 minutes later, you forget about it. That's generic.
Okay.
But when you see perception at work, you see something, you say, wow, that's different, or wow, that's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you're doing realistic art, if someone sees a spider in the camp, says, wow, that spider looks like it's crawling,
Right.
at me.
Right.
That's strong perception.
Okay.
And even in the abstract forms of art, you